Time to talk about Mike Ybarra's full statement, because there's a little bit more that he says.
Yeah.
I'm humbled to be a part of Blizzard Entertainment, the rich history, incredible talent, player communities, amazing games. I've been leading Blizz for a few months now. In addition to the exciting news this week, I want to share some initial thoughts as we strive to put our team and players at the forefront of everything that we do. You know, it does just because there's a notable absence here, which is Jen O'Neill. Yes. I just wonder what it would have been like if she was there for a few more months and all this happens. Interesting. Anyway, 2021 was challenging for all of us. Talks about, individuals, This is called public facing message. So, I feel like you could just have GPT-3, just type in a / this is the intent of this paragraph, and you could generate half of these.
Almost certainly.
But I mean, fair enough. It is what it is. Our top priority now and in the future is the work we are doing to rebuild your trust in Blizzard. So this is really the big thing. Now, there's ways they've lost trust. There's the very, very obvious way they've lost trust in, how the things have been going on at the company. There's also, maybe here is this kind of admitting that actually it's also the games bit. Overwatch people, they've obviously lost some trust in Blizzard. Where's Overwatch 2? Yep. WoW people, I think more obviously than most, because I think we get to be the loudest about it, being the kind of live service game community. Yeah, so that should be their top priority. I wonder how things would change, because in the Activision way of doing things, it's like get the product out, everything's got to be $1 billion game.
Yeah.
In the Microsoft way of things, doesn't have to be like that.
This is more feasible.
Yeah, Microsoft bothered with Age of Empires 2 Definitive. They bothered with Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. Yeah. Who does that? AoE 2 is the big one.
Yeah.
Right. So
well, that's the thing. They did it because there's people who like AoE 3 more than AoE 2.
Yeah.
It's not all the people. It's not most of the people. It's a decent portion of the people. And they went, well, we're already doing it. We might as well give these players what they want. And actually, just I want to think about because he says rebuild your trust in Blizzard. And I was like, where does that sound really familiar? There was a news video, I think it was last week, where we were talking about BioWare and how we were saying could almost never imagine a world where, because they said rebuild trust and rebuild faith. I can't remember exactly the words, but it was the same thing of this not literal, but a tacit admission of guilt.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, and I think I said, I could never see this from Blizzard. If I saw this from Blizzard, I would be surprised that they're actually willing to admit that they have problems. And obviously it's been a tumultuous week. So it's like, I kind of didn't realize this immediately when I read this, but this is definitely them going, yeah. Or at least it's Mike Ybarra going, we have problems to solve to our players. Yeah. And I think this is the first admission.
And there's one here, Debuta says, wait, why did you release a video 20 minutes ago about the deal not going through? Yet here you are saying it will. I'm so lost. Worth watching the video because that is about why it might not go through. It's why there's a question mark in the title. And the reason why it might not go through is, of course, antitrust. And we basically run through the entire antitrust situation. Yeah. We do believe it will go through, but there's a chance it could be an antitrust challenge, a decently real chance.
For I guess the super hyper TLDR is we're all going to assume it is because they likely wouldn't have done it if it wasn't going to go through. No one knows, but because it's the most likely, and also just the entirety of the discourse is assuming it will. Yeah. So for all intents and purposes, we're assuming it will, but it also might not.
So that's another great point. Phantom Dust remaster. It's like, you didn't need to do that, did you?
Yeah.
It's good that you did. Yeah. So continuing on then, watching Blizzard work as creatively and diligently as we have throughout the challenging time on top of the pandemic. That's actually pretty major. Because usually whenever you hear these challenging times, these trying times, it's obviously people talking about COVID. No, he's making it very clear that the challenging time he's talking about is the state of the company. Yeah, on top of an ongoing pandemic has been inspiring. Navigating these challenges, evolving our processes, being introspective, looking how we can improve our culture shows strength and commitment. Good. Also, was also encouraged in reading forums, social posts, and emails from people within and outside of Blizzard standing up for what's right and lending us your guidance. I want you all to know we are listening and we are committed to change. He talks about, as a first step toward improving communication with the community, I want to highlight some internal actions we are taking. Okay. So, they are measuring executive and management teams directly against culture improvement, meaning that their and my own success and compensation will directly depend on the overall success in creating a safe, good work environment. They're dedicating more full-time roles and resources to culture improvement, which means there's a new team. So there's going to be a culture leader who will help them maintain the best aspects of what they have, but then, of course, change and evolve. New organizational leader for HR.
That'll
And
be welcome.
a DEI leader. And we are committed to staffing these teams as a priority. So, essentially... Alex says bring Mike Morhaime back. Here's the thing. Mike Morhaime was asleep at the fucking wheel for all of this shit.
Yeah.
That's it. Mike Morhaime let Alex Afrasiabi fucking predate as much as he wanted, and he almost certainly knew. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's the rub. I don't like that is the rub.
Yeah.
Personally, I really don't want that to be the case. But, there's accounts of Afrasiabi, actively doing Afrasiabi things in a fucking lobby where Morheime's in it. Yeah. And I think Morhaime was just off talking about things he was passionate about. That's the thing. I'm not saying that Morhaime was being bad. I'm saying he was asleep at the wheel when it came to these issues.
Indeed.
All this cult stuff. Yeah, culture leader. Sure, culture does start with cult, but company culture is a very, very important thing. And hasty accusation, well, that's from reading people's accounts, and also that these things happened while he was CEO. So no, it's not really a hasty accusation, actually. There are companies that don't have these problems that had leaders that were not asleep at the wheel and dealt with them proactively. Even for the big companies like Electronic Arts, they generally have been a lot more proactive in these problems, and they've had problems, but they haven't had company-wide existential threats. Fortua saying, it's not my problem. Dude, you're wrong, it is your problem. And the reason why it's your problem is that it's the reason why WoW has a less efficient production pipeline right now. It's the reason Diablo 4 is delayed. It's the reason Overwatch 2 is delayed. For those latter two, that's fucking confirmed by them themselves. Right? Yeah, team leads and turnover are what delayed those two games. Yep. And if Blizzard didn't have all of the bullshit going on, then those team leaders would still be there, because those, for your man, the Diablo director, he's thrown out.
Yep.
And that is part of why Diablo 4 is delayed again. Those projects were delayed out of 2022 and into 2023 or maybe 4. Yeah. So it's maybe you don't care that somebody got their boob touched at work, but the fact is that work being done in an environment where that was something that could basically be happening, that is something that led to inefficient production and your games being late.
Yep. It is deeply unfortunate that this isn't just sort it out and go, but it's so deeply ingrained and so deep a part of the culture that I guess I suppose a way to put it is it didn't seem like it was a problem when the games were good, but that's just because the debt that they were incurring by having a terrible culture didn't come to bear yet. And now all of the seeds that they sowed back then are now coming to fruition in this awful situation where no one can get their actual work done properly. And it is a fact that they did sow those seeds way back then.
Yeah, we're constantly losing our shit about how World of Warcraft, its problem... It has problems in execution.
Yeah.
But actually the fundamental problem with WoW tends to be their ideas.
Yeah.
And we just think wait, what? Ideas? That's the easy bit. Everyone ridicules and laughs at idea guys.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is that it's hard to implement the ideas good. But with WoW, they've had bad ideas implemented poorly. Yeah. How does that actually end up happening? Well, either people are in jobs where they just shouldn't fucking be there, or the overall company culture and just messy work situation and bad production and bad management means that nobody has the time to do the idea right. So all of these things, even if you don't care about the human suffering, actually your game's made by humans, so if they're having an awful time, you're going to have a shit game. Yep. Simple as that. So there is a selfish There is a selfish reason to want these things to be better if you play these games.
Yeah, I mean, 40's followed up and said, make better games. The consumers are gone. It is a problem, but it's their problem, and that's the thing. To make better games, they have to do this first. That's the unfortunate thing. Where if they had sowed the seeds of proper culture, they would be making kick-ass games now all day long. But they have these problems to deal with first. It's a case of, I guess, you can't work without the tools, and they have just not looked after their tools. Which is obviously not to dehumanize workers for their ideas and stuff by calling them tools, but it's fundamentally that's the cleanest way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah,
it's very unfortunate,
and it means that it's going to take time.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things that WoW could probably do is staff up, replace the brain drain with incredible hires. Yep. It's going to take a while to attract incredible hires to Blizzard.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get some of that Microsoft money straight into the coffers before they can do any of that. Honestly.
Yeah, and to move on. So they've tripled the size of their compliance and investigation teams and have articulated clear accountability for unacceptable behavior, and this applies to everyone, including leadership and management. Look, if you have a bunch of problems and you actually have no means to solve those problems, you're not going to get solved.
Yeah, you can't put out a fire without water.
And you might think, no, this is important, this isn't game development. Well, if it gets in the way of game development, you have to solve it. Who's going to solve it? Are the game developers going to solve it? They're busy making games. Okay, so the game developers go and try to fix up their own culture in their office, and obviously they'll have to a degree, but you need someone whose responsibility it is to do the thing, right? They shared representation data internally with our teams and set some goals to improve the metrics. The only thing there is obviously, you're just going to sometimes have just naturally more people attracted to different sorts of roles, and some of that stuff that's kind of out of Blizzard's hands. Like as an example, let's just say there are some socioeconomic inequalities that impact different groups differently. Well, that's going to impact how many people actually go to the different universities, which will impact the skill set. So it's kind of like a really big multifactorial problem.
Indeed.
This is the one that's a bit harder to get, what would the word be, organic or something?
Yeah, of course.
They put in place an upward feedback program so employees have confidence in evaluating management. Yeah, good. You should be able to basically say your boss has done a shit job and not get in trouble.
That's what I think is the long-term most important thing here. Obviously, you would argue that, maybe the we're rebuilding your trust in Blizzard is the most important thing. But I think, generally speaking, if I were trying to metagame improvement, this last point is the one that is the most important, which is we will use this to measure the quality and effectiveness of our managers, because your managers overlook your teams. So you need the quality to be at every single level. And historically speaking, you look at the Peter Principle, the entire problem of basically corporatism in a way and ineffectiveness in corporations is shitty managers who are promoted out of competence and can't manage people.
Yeah.
So if you can fix that problem, and I would honestly say that across most of video games, this is the problem. We very rarely see execution problems or idea problems. We do sometimes see those, but most of what's wrong with games at the minute is production and management. And having processes to evaluate those properly, the same way you evaluate, the outsourced artist is only giving us 3 deliverables instead of 4 deliverables, we'll rehire. You need a manager who's going, you need to look at your manager and go, why is your turnover 20% as opposed to good manager 10%? You're losing us double the staff of this person. We need to fix this.
Team turnover rate needs to be a KPI.
Yeah, that stuff needs to be fixed. And then you'll have quality at every single level of the rung instead of burning employees out and throwing them into the garbage pile, getting in someone fresh and never having someone who's been through the actual 20 years of game development with experience.
Yeah, you need to build a fucking incredible company, and there's a lot of people going just make the games. Stop all of this. This is the agenda ran amok. This is all. Here's the thing. Okay, Alex, to explain it differently, StarCraft 2 is a game about fighting enemies. But if you don't have a well laid out base, good macro, and lots of SCVs, you're going to be fucked.
Yep.
If you don't maybe build some missile towers because you think the enemy's going to go get mutas, then all your SCVs are going to die and you'll have no econ, and then you'll be fucking dead because the macro game's lost. Yep. That's akin to, you haven't taken care of your company, therefore all your developers are dead and gone, and you're just fucked.
Absolutely.
Ybarra says these are just the beginning. Talks about being excited. And then, of course, the big quote that we talked about there. So, hey, maybe potential pog for that. We'll just have to see how it goes. And wants to thank the communities. Here's to an incredible 2022 and beyond. Look, hopefully this all is genuine and real. To be honest, if Blizzard still wants to be a game developer, then this has to be genuine. So we may as well take it as that. Yeah, I think that's most of it. Listen, just guys, you have to do. Oh, I've dragged the whole document. You have to do all this stuff right. You have to do it right.
Yeah, but I think the problem is you have to do it right, and by us actually seeing publicly that they're fixing it means they've done it wrong. This should be the stuff that no consumer ever has to consider themselves. They should never have to go, oh, well, is the company culture this company right or wrong? They should be just making good games, but this is indicative that they have fucked it up. So really badly.
Here's an incredible example from H, who said, Rockstar has bad company culture, they make the best games. Okay,
at what cost?
Here's why there's a lot that you're definitely not aware of if you said that statement. Okay, let's look at LA Noire. Now, that was not made by Rockstar, but that was sort of managed by Rockstar. Well, that team's dead, and they didn't make the follow-up game to LA Noire. And they were, I think, pretty fucking, they were cracking the whip at Rockstar. And that burnt that company in the ground. So if you like the sorts of games like LA Noire, tough shit. Tough shit, not going to happen. Okay, Bully 2.
Where's that at?
Where's Bully 2?
Yeah, it's been, I think it's like 3 times they've started working on it. And every time they've mismanaged it and thrown it out.
Yeah, so there's another example. GTA games taking 700 trillion years to exist. I wonder if that has anything to do with this.
Yeah, I mean, remember GTA 5 launched on the last generation. Sorry, they didn't launch on the last generation of consoles. They launched 2 generations of consoles ago.
Yeah.
That was on the PS3.
Fucking Xbox 360 on a 5400 RPM hard drive, meaning they had to make that crazy custom streaming shit to make it work.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, Rockstar has shitty culture, and they didn't. Here's the thing. Their shitty culture meant that they could not maximally exploit their IP. If we want to frame this into big capitalism land, they were not able to exploit their resources because they fucked their culture. And funny enough, their culture explodes in their face via a few reports from the press. And 1 year later, there's a follow-up talking about how Rockstar has actually invested a lot into improving its culture. Now, do they do that out of the goodness of their hearts, or do they do that out of Take-Two wants us to make more money? They obviously did it because of the latter, because they know, like, if there's brain drain, if they're losing their people, then they're fucked. They can't make good content.
Indeed.
So, you've got to think, this is all multifactorial. There's multiple factors. It's also a thing of complex systems.
Yeah.
Right? So, Google those things. Have a think. Like, everything impacts everything. It's all feedback loops. It's not just a linear thing of people work, game comes out at the end. It's all feedback loops and shit. I mean, John says, who cares what the culture is? If a game sucks, I'm not going to play. I don't care what goes on at a company. That's their problem. Yeah, true. But if you care about the game, it's your problem because the game's going to be shit. And if it's a game that you like that turns shit, then you're fucked because the culture's went. This impacts everybody. It's just, I think, there is a very natural human struggle of thinking about things in the level beyond how it applies to you directly, because all of this stuff, it's like the thing that hits you is a second order effect of the problem, basically. So if you want the problem to go away, the thing that you think is the problem isn't the problem.
Yep.
It's something else.
Indeed.
So yeah, poggers.
I'm literally just thinking about, what do you call it? I'm thinking about who was it? The BioWare dev who responded to the Nightingale dev, who was an ex-BioWare dev, who responded to Mark Dara talking about BioWare Magic and saying BioWare Magic, take 10 to 20% of your employees, crunch them into a fine dust, add to taste. Turns out dust can't make games anymore.
Yeah, I'm like, there's all people saying, hey, this is your opinion. Look, run a company. I think about these things on a daily basis. Even the game development thing. Like, we've had a few failed projects. The reason why our current one hasn't completely fucked itself is because we kind of now know what we're doing based on those failures. So like, this is, yes, this is analyzing what's happened. It's also applying personal experience. This shit's really, really important. Really important.
Indeed.
yeah, most of the time we've fucked up a project, it's not because of our creative ideas or our game vision. It's because of fucking up production, fucking up management. You know, that's what fucks it.
Yep.
So I think it's just that thing. Yeah, just try to think like a little level bigger, I guess, on some of these things, and just especially think about second order effects.
Absolutely.
Of things. Okay.